Vancouver's housing machine is sputtering, and it's not just about prices. I was looking at a news report out of an organization called the Missing Middle Initiative, based out of Ottawa. And here's the core of that report that they had. While officials point to steady housing starts, the real story is in sales. New home sales in Greater Vancouver are off a cliff compared to 2021, and that pipeline powers the job. Now, according to this analysis from the Missing Middle Initiative, they warn this region of Metro Vancouver, get this, could shed roughly 20,000 person years of employment just in the first half of 2025. Think about that for a second. 20,000 jobs lost in trades, planning, marketing, manufacturing, architects, you name it. It's a huge, huge issue, and add to that a growing stack of unsold condos and projects that no longer pencil out, and you've got a labor shock hiding in plain sight. So how real is this? Well, joining us now to talk about this issue is Michael Geller, president of the Geller Group. He's an architect, planner, and real estate consultant. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Well, as I told your producer, the market's so bad, I didn't really have anything else to do this afternoon.
I don't want to depress people, but this particular article just, and they do good work, and when I saw it, and I kind of, no one's actually put a number to it, and maybe that's it. Your thoughts on this 20,000 jobs being impacted in Metro Vancouver alone in regards to housing and construction?
I mean, I can't comment on the accuracy of that projection, but what I can confirm is that for every sort of well-to-do developer who people generally don't care that much about, there are thousands of people associated with the development and construction industry who we should care about, because it's the architects, it's all the construction people. It's also as far away as people who sell appliances and furniture and interior designers. So if homes aren't being built or being sold, it impacts a lot of people.
And do you know much about this Missing Middle Initiative? It's a good organization?
Yes, it's a credible organization. I think they need to change their name, because those of us in the development community hear so much about missing middle. We think it even refers to a segment of the population that's not being served by government, or a housing form in between the single-family house and apartment. But they've taken on that name. They do a lot of research, and Mike Moffat, who heads it up, is a very credible. You can join their website and listen to their podcasts, and they're very, I think they're a legitimate voice.
That's my sense of it. I've been following them for a while, and they're really credible, well-researched articles and commentary, and a lot of academics involved with that organization. Now, the core thesis there, we want to ask you about that. Why are housing starts a lagging indicator, and what does the collapse in new home sales tell you about the next 12 to 24 months when it comes to new construction?
That things are going to get worse before they're going to get better. Because as many are pointing out, developers are having a hard time selling some of the product that they started years ago. And part of the problem is those projects were really intended for investors. And as you talk about often, the investors have disappeared from the market, and they've disappeared because they were buying with the expectation that in the 3 to 4 years it took between when they bought the home and when it would be completed, the market would go up. Well, as most of us have discovered, the market doesn't always go up, and that's been particularly true in the last 3 or 4 years.
During the commercial break, you said it's starting to look like 1983, and full disclosure, I was 13 at the time. I mean, I still follow the news, but do tell me what you mean by that.
1983 was a very difficult year for the development community and a lot of homeowners in Metro Vancouver and across Canada. And the main reason in those days is the interest rates were 19%. Now, we complain about having high interest rates at 3, 4, 5%. They were 19%. And that was the year that a lot of developers, including the company I worked for, Nayrod Developments, went broke. And it wasn't just big developers, it was small ones as well. And it really, the sort of the doldrums continued until 1986. And do you remember what happened in 1986?
Expo 86.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
We were told to invite the world, and the world came. That, of course, suddenly opened up Vancouver to the international markets. And of course, we've had a lot of discussion about that. But whether or not you like all those foreigners who came into Vancouver and so forth, it changed the whole economy. And you've had discussions today with others about the fact that right now our economy looks quite gloomy and the situation with the United States isn't helping.
No, it's quite depressing. Now, we've seen newspaper articles about companies going into receivership already, high-profile development companies laying people off and openly. Should we expect more of this, even though we may potentially see 2 rate cuts coming by the end of this year? Will that help in any way, or do you think we're going to see more companies either going into receivership or certainly these development companies holding off on projects or laying off employees as well?
I think the rate cuts will help people who are in the market to buy a new home much more than they'll help developers contemplating on whether to proceed with a project or not. And I say that for 2 reasons. One, if they can't sell the inventory they already have, why start a new project? And also, as Anne McMullen of the Urban Development Institute and others keep pointing out, Bo Jarvis very eloquently, when it costs more to build a product than you can sell it for, why will you build it? And that's the reason why West Group, which is a very financially successful and capable company, actually canceled a project recently, even though they had sold many of the homes. They realized their cost to complete that project would be greater than what they were planning or what they'd agreed to sell the homes for.
In your network, are you hearing anecdotal information beyond what you see in the newspaper headlines or what this article with the missing middle said? Are you seeing or hearing those same types of stories of potential layoffs, of any indicator that, yes, things have slowed down or slowing down?
Well, one of the indicators, as you mentioned, my background's in architecture. The architects, I mean, a couple of years ago, the architects were so busy.
Yeah.
They were looking for staff. Right now, things are really slowing down. Architectural billings are down. And what that means is people are not even starting to prepare plans just to get approvals in place. And as you and I have talked before, there's no doubt there are a lot of projects that actually have approvals. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of potential apartments for sale and for rent, but they're not proceeding. And again, they're not proceeding in large part because of that combination of construction costs, and they are coming down. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, they're coming down if projects aren't proceeding, and all the municipal fees and the inherent delays, which unfortunately, and I think governments are slowly starting to get the message, but I think the feeling of the development community is the government still does not fully appreciate just how dire circumstances are.
My guest is Michael Geller. He's president of the Geller Group. We're talking about a report from the Missing Middle Initiative that caught my eye actually late last week that predicts 20,000 job losses in Metro Vancouver because of the impact on our housing and construction industry as it's slowed down significantly. Lots of unsold condos as well. Would love to get your thoughts on this. Do you think this is structural in the sense that this is going to be a much different industry when we get out of this? Or do you think, hey, maybe the industry itself will now be reacting to and speaking to local salaries, and perhaps this is the difficult time we have to go through? Would love to hear your thoughts on this. 604-280-9898. That's 604-280-9898, star 9898 on your cell phone. And one thing I'd also add, Michael and I were talking during the break, we talk about forestry and fishing as foundational sectors in our economy. We sometimes take housing and construction for granted, and it's such an important part of our economy when you talk about revenues for government. Let's go to the open line. Let's go to Trevor in Surrey. Hi, Trevor.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show here. I got to say here, the party's over and now the hangover begins. I mean, we've had 20 years of a Ponzi scheme going on where people have been speculating, building things that nobody wants, hoping to flip it on like it's a coupon here. And, well, now the floor has fallen out and it's time to pay the penalty on that. And honestly, the big fat man south of the border in the White House is just highlighting the problems that have been existing for the last 10, 15 years here. We have a stagnant economy. We have a premier who doesn't want anything built here, the resource sector or anything else. And these tariffs are just highlighting the problems that we've already had existing, and now it's time to pay the penalty.
Trevor, thank you for your call. Michael, the core issue of building things that most people don't want, let's focus on the condos just for a second. Is that market now gone? The building for the investor, and I'm not talking about the foreign investor, even mom and pop investors who will buy a 500-600 square foot condo and rent it out as part of their retirement plan. Is that market now gone permanently, or is it just of the moment?
Well, it's certainly gone for a while, in part because there are so many other rental units in the pipeline. Plus, we have in fact succeeded at bringing rents down by increasing supply, such that the rents that you can reasonably charge are not sufficient to cover the mortgage, if you like, of that rental unit. And so not only is it not likely going to go up in value in the foreseeable future, but just to pick up one quick point from Trevor, you know, there is this feeling, come on guys, you all had 20 wonderful years, you've all made a ton of money, so now, you know, it's going to be tough. It's not just tough for developers. It's tough for a lot of people, including all those young people who did buy homes in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, do they want to see the value of their home drop 20%? I don't think so. So we shouldn't ignore the fact that there is a need for a certain equilibrium in the overall housing markets.
Let's go to John in Burnaby. Hi, John.
Hi, my point is, you had said that, well, will developers bring costs down? How about municipalities bringing down development costs? How about municipalities reining in their belts and their bureaucracy? And as your guest is on there, this step code is absolutely moronic. We should be building homes at the lowest cost possible, and which lowers the price. But you implement all these policies from people who've never built a thing in their lives. That's where the disconnect lies.
Yeah. John, thank you for your call. I can't disagree with him in regards to development cost charges. The step code, my argument would be, you know, this region can't save the planet. I understand wanting to build more efficient homes and caring about the environment, but if it's driving up costs to the point your people can't afford housing, it's an issue. You and I talked about this during the break. How much do you need to drop prices where the industry believes that it can be affordable for people?
Yeah. Well, others have suggested you actually need to bring prices for sort of new condominiums, new townhouses down about 20%. You need to bring them down $200 to $300 a foot,
square foot,
which is a significant amount. Now, put that in perspective. A housing development typically might be $100 a foot for the land and $450 a foot for the construction. And as John just pointed out, the municipal fees, they can actually be greater than the cost of the land.
Oh, wow.
And so this is right. And the problem we have, and you and I have talked about this before, it's not the developers who are paying all these municipal fees. If we can, we pass them on to the future home buyer. So we've created a system where people who don't have homes are paying to finance growth rather than the broader population. And I think governments are starting to pay attention. Certainly in Ontario they are, and I think here as well. But what we're talking about here is saying to the developer, okay, it may be $35,000 for this particular fee. We'll let you defer its payment until the end of the process when the occupancy is issued. That's a good thing, but the reality is that $35,000 fee on top of another $110,000 fee is too much.
My core thesis, my point that I made prior to the last commercial break, if we don't have homes in the pipeline, are we looking at sort of a rubber band effect where it's just going to snap back? But because we don't have homes in the pipeline, you could see prices spiking in 2 or 3 years in a significant way.
I think that will happen, but there's something else that we can't ignore, and that is the government is talking about building a lot of housing. They're talking about doubling the number of housing starts from 230,000 to 460. That's not going to happen.
There's no workers, yeah.
But the one thing that we can do is focus on building more affordable housing, nonprofit housing, housing for lower income people, where the government does indeed put in a lot of money to make that happen. And that, to my mind, would make a lot of sense now to keep the architects and the contractors and the appliance distributors busy. So there is an opportunity there. But you're right. Real estate in Vancouver has been so cyclical over the years, and eventually things will recover. But I think we are in a dire straits situation for the next 2 years. So let's take advantage of it in a positive way.
Michael, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you.